Looking ahead, you look at the Lakers, they have a lot of holes to fill. I think the backup point guard is the primary one.
Yeah.
I think that's because when Lonzo got hurt, they were terrible until they figured out that Ingram can play that position. And yes, he can. And that's something they can always go to. And I think it's not a bad thing. But I think they really do need a legit prospect that they can be confident that even if this player is not ready yet to deliver every night, someone that they can invest in for a 3 or 4 or 5 year haul to try to develop as a backup point guard. What's your thought on that?
Yeah, I think it's obviously important to have a good backup and also someone who can play with Lonzo, because Lonzo can play off the ball. He can sort of share backcourt duties that way, and Aaron Holiday is a guy that he's done that with. So I guess that would make a lot of sense. But again, it comes down to who or what is available, and I think if you're the Lakers, it also would make sense to try to get another wing if you can, because we've seen that you have a couple injuries and all of a sudden you're playing Travis Ware and Kyle Kuzma at the 3, and that's obviously not ideal. So
Ware has been really impressive to me.
No, yeah, he's been really good.
I mean, obviously we're talking within his role, right?
Yes.
Like we're not talking about a mainline player, but I think he's someone who has a chance to be back next year. And we discussed, I think that we discussed on the show why they should not sign him to a multi-year, and they didn't. They signed him to a rest of the season contract, and now the advantage is that they can give him a qualifying offer, make him restricted, and then negotiate with him, and then come to a deal. But then before signing him, renounce his rights, withdraw the qualifying offer, get him off their books entirely, then go ahead and sign with their max cap space all the players they can. And then sign, because you don't need his bird rights. They actually have his early bird rights, which is interesting because he was on the team last year.
Okay.
And remember, they took him to training camp, I think, 2 years in a row.
Right. Okay.
So I have to look at it closely, but I think they have his early bird rights. I want to double check that.
But you would think that Travis Ware, the type of player he is probably not getting much more than the minimum.
Right. It's just a protection to make sure that if he had a multi-year deal and they cut him like they cut Nwaba, someone could claim him. And I don't think it's unreasonable to think that someone might claim him just as a prospect, because there are teams that are going to have the roster spots, and why not get a player that you can cut later who might be a rotation player? He's been a good defender and he's a good shooter. So I'm shocked that I can even say that, because I never thought of Travis Ware as a good defender, but he has been. So
progress.
Yes, good for him. He's put in a lot of work with the G League, with the Defenders / South Bay Lakers. He's been with their program, I think, for 2 years, and has really grown. So good for him. So Josh, and I hear what you're saying on wings. Like you can never have enough wings in this day and age. But I feel like right now their biggest hole is a backup point guard. Unless someone here listening says Alex Caruso is 100% the guy, I feel like he may be the guy. And if he's the guy, fine. But I still feel like there needs to be someone else in that mix.
What I will say to that point, too, is I think if you're going to get a backup for Alonzo Ball, it might make more sense, if you can, to try to get someone a little bit more veteran, because you're still talking about a guy who's going to be going into his second season at the age of 20. And though he's come along great in a lot of respects, I think it would be more helpful for him to have someone behind him who can still give him some advice and still sort of show him the ropes a little bit. And I think Isaiah Thomas has probably been very helpful in that regard since he's been on the team.
Well, it's shown. I definitely like when you have someone running the pick and roll with Julius Randle or even Zubac, they're going to be really effective. And that's not Lonzo's strength at this point, running a pick and roll, because he doesn't break down someone off the dribble.
Although he had some moments against Detroit.
He did. But those are not common for him. And if obviously they would love for him to grow and add to his game. And next year, we don't know. The difference in who Brandon Ingram is compared to where he was as a rookie is staggering. He's grown tremendously. There's things he can do now that he just couldn't do on a regular basis or even once. And yet we saw Alonzo go right and hit a pull-up, right?
He hit a bank shot. He had hit a little Dirk step back off a crossover.
So maybe that progress is there. And so, like, I think the idea of what Isaiah Thomas is made this team a lot better, right? Like having a point guard who could really run the show. And you could put Lonzo off the ball, and make him a defender at 2 and let him just be part of that, whatever they're doing, and it's going to work because Lonzo, I think, fits with almost anybody, whether it's a point guard or a 2 guard. Mm-hmm. So the problem then becomes, if you're putting all your eggs in the LeBron and Paul George basket, what resources do you have to get that point guard? Unless you're getting someone at the minimum, they might have the room exception for $3 or $4 million, almost $4 million in that range. So there is some potential to get a vet, but knowing in June, rather in May, in June when you're doing the draft, mm-hmm. you don't really know what you're going to get. Yeah. So I would like to see, and I feel like you should always have a point guard that you're developing. You have to. Like, that's an area the Clippers have struggled in. Now at least they have Juwan Evans. Mm-hmm. You always got to be developing a point guard. You have to always be developing a big, always developing a wing. Like, mm-hmm. there should be one, like, projects that if you're seeing the progress, you keep developing. If you feel like that player's hit a dead end, get a different prospect in there. But